Ladies, welcome. Today we are here for Dr. Tracy's Masterclass, and today's class is called Creating Time. It's a workshop on time management for dreamers and creatives. So, with that, Dr. Tracy, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello to everyone. We're switching a little bit of a lane on my monthly master's classes. And I know that you're like, don't normally we talk about how to discover our be and step into that feminine boss. Believe it or not, this is going to be more of a spiritual conversation on time because time is something that we cannot escape on this journey of our life, number one. And number two, the entire world operates according to time. And so it's really important with our busy schedules, with our relationship with time, with our dreams, because how many dreamers have said, I just don't have enough time in the day to implement all the things that I want to do. So that actually leads us also into the conversation about anxiety and time. So today, in the next hour, I'm going to be having a spiritual conversation about the subject, about the linear subject of time. I would like to know why each of you signed up for a class on time management when there's hundreds and if not thousands, literally thousands of droplets of information on time management. Where are you struggling with time and what does that look like?
So, for me, there just is not enough time. There's too many things that I want to be out in the world accomplishing. And it's not that I can't say no to things. I can say no to things, but there's things that I don't want to have to say no to. And so I just want more to fit in the time that is available.
Not enough time.
Well, Dr. Tracy and
Hi.
my dear, hi everyone. So first of all, I love listening to you. I love all the wisdom that you share with us. So I would love to be available to listen to anytime and every time you come up and speak. And the other reason, like time management, we all know how important it is. I definitely have a lot of aspirations in life and a lot of distractions too. So anytime I can get any tips and tricks to better manage my time in the day, and I would say deliver more to the world and to myself, I'm all ears. And yeah, I love to evolve each passing day. So I'm just looking forward to hearing more from you.
Rebecca typed in the chat. She said, I struggle to know what is important. It all feels important.
Our life is about time management because how we can achieve anything in our life, we have to have because we have every day 24 hours on how we manage time to do everything. It's really important because it's only thing we cannot control the time because time is no good. Life is keep going, but cannot keep on the can or can use the is ourselves, but we have to talk about how we manage and how so that happen.
So, so I understand you're talking about time and time keeps moving. What's specifically your question that you're hoping we answer in class today?
What like how to speak more and 24 hours self made.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So, how to seize more in 24 hours?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That gives me a little direction on which way I want to go with because time is a very big subject. It's a forever subject, right? And the first thing that I want to do is really clarify what type of a person when it comes to time that you are, because there are certain people that are very linear when it comes to time, that if it's 2 o'clock, it's 3:31, 4:31. Do you understand what I'm saying? These are very linear people, and understanding time and basically the management of time is super simple to them. I can't say that about creatives. I can That is just not how the creative mind thinks. And the best analogy that I can give you is that imagine how many of you in this room by show of hands are creatives? So just put your little hand up so I know how many people are actually creatives in the classroom. And here's how the mind of a creative thinks when it comes to time. So if a creative person has a project, and let's say that we have a project and we are to paint a rose, right? I'm not a painter, but let's say that as a creative, I have to paint a rose. I could be working on my project, and the next day somebody could say, "Hey, what time is it?" And in your brain and in your soul, you would respond by saying, "I'm halfway through the rose." Do you understand what I'm saying? So one of the greatest gifts and yet the greatest challenges that we have as creatives is that our mind thinks in the timing of projects where the rest of the people who are not creative, they literally think in linear time. So right off the bat, we are a bit handicapped when it comes to time management because the time doesn't manage us, the project manages us, the creative side manages us. How many just had an aha moment where you say, "Oh my gosh, no wonder I can get so twisted up," is because you could be painting a rose, you could be carving a wood piece, you could be writing a paper, you could be building a website, you could be whatever your creative outwork is. The moment you begin that, there's another clock going inside of you. And another one, Rebecca, as you said earlier, which one is the most important? They're all important. To a creative, those are our babies. Any creative project, if it comes to, if you're somebody who loves to cook, boiling an egg is a creative project. And somebody could say, how much longer does the egg have to boil? And we can give you that linear time because that's like an artist saying, I need PMS F2316 when it comes to the color of blue that I want. So the first thing that you have to realize as a creative and when it comes to time is, Queen, you are just built differently. And you need to take breaths because you're not lazy. Because, and I'm going to talk a little bit in a bit about how we creatives rebel against time, believe it or not, but you're not lazy. You actually don't have poor time management. You just have a different interpretation of what time is. Now, here's the challenge is that we live in a time-based society. So if you are going to be a creative and you want to monetize your creative, you have to play by the rules of the normal people. And I don't mean we're abnormal, but we are certainly not normal. We think outside the box. We see life through our own rose colored, pink colored, purple colored glasses. We dance to the beat of our own soul's drum. That's what a creative does. And we can get really frustrated on this journey because one of my early problems with time is this is before I knew all of this. I was running chronically late. And it's for two reasons. The first reason is because I came from a family where there was no time management. We're a very warm blooded family, and the clocks went like this all the time. And there was a lot of us. So it was very difficult to herd everyone to church on Sunday and to operate by the linear time. I look back, and I don't know if any of you felt this or any of you who have children can see this, is that some kids wake up early in the morning and are ready to start their day. Most creatives don't. And I've learned to make peace with my personality because at night when I go to sleep, my soul, she takes off and she is all over this universe, visiting different experiences and learning different things. And early in the morning, when that alarm clock goes off too early,
my eyes will open and I will be blinking at the world, but she's not there. She's not there, and I'll be stumbling through because she's not there. This is a very common, doesn't it? Does that resonate with anybody? That is a very common creative feeling that we experience. So, as a creative in this realm that we live in, step number one, you have to just admit I'm a creative and I don't interpret life in the same timing that the normal people do, the normal society does. However, if you're going to be successful, you must respect the system that is set up that we live within. Did I see a question come through from Rebecca?
Oh, she said, "How do I play by the rules of normal people so I can be more productive?"
All right. So the first thing is to settle into the fact that if somebody asks you as a creative, what time is it? Your mind is in the wherever your projects are in the process of. And if you have multiple projects, what time is it? I can tell you today that it's the beginning stages of the Feminine Boss website. It's the photo that's not finished that we can't find the exact background image of. It's the workbook for the divine that I just can't seem to find that right image to hook it into in order to send it to print. So it's on doc here. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, dear, what time is it in your creative mind world today?
Yeah, so that's interesting because there is some linear parts of it because I do have some things that have linear times with other people on my schedule today. And then it's a little bit of what deadlines are coming and what deadlines are coming today versus what deadlines are coming next week and next month, as well as and I could name off projects and where I am in the status of all of those projects, but then it's also the to-do lists and all the things. And Rebecca said it's like identifying, okay, which of those things is going to rise to the top. This morning, I actually was able to send a client contract this morning at a little window of time, and I was not confident. That's a question of like how to have confidence in our time. I wasn't confident I was going to get it out, but I sat down to try and I was able to get it out before we started class today. So that was a good accomplishment to start the day off.
Devica, what time is it in your creative mind's world?
My creativity is right now revolving around the kids. Usually the weekends we've got like things lined up and just my mind is like all over the place, especially I have some virtual auditions to submit. I have to keep up with my advocacy for the foundation. And I keep thinking, how can I talk more, share more? Where can I go and educate more people about what we do? So lots of things in the head right now.
Heba, did you want to share?
Yeah. Yeah. What my time I think sometimes a lot when I'm driving, I'm thinking a lot of stuff. And I will cry one time, but the time I did, I read, I never at the same time. I did everything I read, but I never read it and I'm already. Yeah. But my bedtime was thinking when I was writing, and sometimes I start to think of something I want, I couldn't write. I start to ask people to give me more ideas to tell my working down. And yeah, this is why.
Great.
Rebecca, oh, perfect. Rebecca typed in, I'll read hers. She said, I normally meet deadlines, but I also hate being confined, so I don't always want to box myself in. My creative mind is disrupted constantly and bounces between the needs of family and the demands of work. Plus, I try to please myself sometimes and allowing myself to be immersed.
That's great. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the divine chaotic and how we need to just really embrace her and set her free. All right, so to a creative, the concept of time can feel very much like a strangulation. That, as I said, that I ran chronically late because number one, I came from a family that time was chaotic, and number two, possibly because I'm an Aquarian, possibly because it's my personality. Whenever somebody tries to control me so much, I'm going to rebel. I have learned that a long time ago about myself. And because I'm not an aggressive person, I will just rebel. And so I will be 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late, or I will forget, or I will just not manage my time properly. So that's number one. Number two, another thing that you need to understand about learning how to work with this thing called time is that as a creative, we live out of our heart, out of our spirit. But because we live in this linear world, when somebody puts the constraints of time on us, it makes us experience life through our brain. And that can feel very jarring and overwhelmed. And that's one of the reasons why you say, oh, I'm getting stuck, is because it's difficult for a creative to toggle back and forth between their heart and their head, and their heart and their head, and their heart and their head. So listen to this very carefully. One of the skill sets that you need as a creative is we're going to learn what's called segmenting. And segmenting is when we stop and we literally segment our day, that we take care of whatever it is that the time we have to meet our obligations. And after we do that, we forget about it, set an alarm, let it think for you so that your creative spirit doesn't get restrained in what it needs to create. I'll give you a perfect example. And I know all of you have experienced this. How many of you ever have had to take a really early airplane or bus ride in the morning? And you went to bed early enough, but all you could do, rather than slip into this creative dream state and let your dreams take you away, you were sitting in your head all night long. What time is it? I'm going to go off. How much more time do I have to sleep? And so by the time we wake up, we're absolutely exhausted because our creative soul didn't get to rest because it was so busy living in the head. So, am I telling you that you have to have two different personalities, two different thought personalities? My answer is there's probably about 16 of us inside of us, right? But two of those, one has to be the responsible one in living in this time space that we do. When it comes to time, first, when people say, I don't have enough time in a day to conversate, that's not true. We all are gifted with 24 hours a day, and we all have a tremendous amount of choice. You didn't hear me say freedom, I said choice on how we want to spend that. My mentor taught me years and years ago, and I was giggling to myself because I see it around the internet now, but it's something that I was taught years and years ago, that there are 24 hours in the day. There's 8 to sleep. Do not neglect that, because when you sleep, you heal your body, and it is soul food for your creative spirit. You need that sleep to recalibrate your brain so that you can be, what I'm going to say, write this down, a productive creative. Because how many unproductive creatives? That there are these really creative people, but they just can't seem to launch because they can't manage their time. So there's 8 hours in a day to sleep. There's 8 hours in a day to work, whatever your work obligation is. And if you are a stay-at-home mom, that's your 8 hours of work. You're like, but it never stops. No, it never stops. But there are some things that you can do when the other 8 hours of your day are for personal choices. And so you say, yeah, but I work two jobs. That's a personal choice, believe it or not, and until you learn to step into the knowledge that, "Oh, I can work 2 jobs or work 2 jobs," because that second job is getting you somewhere. It's meeting some sort of a need or a goal or an aspiration or a survival, but you wanna get out of that survival, so join the Feminine Boss Academy, and we'll teach you how. But 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to work, 8 hours to make personal choices. Now, let's talk about those of you who are in a 9 to 5 job with another company, and yet you have a bigger dream that you want to do with your life. Those 8 hours of personal time are when you begin to make the choices to start your whole other life. It's so interesting to me because Tia, I'm going to use you as an example that she is a designer and she spends 8 hours a day as a designer and closing contracts and building out interior design and everything. But Tia's also a huge, like, you're climbing a mountain right now or something like that, right?
Yes. Yep.
So it's in our personal time that we can be free. So when you sit there and you say, if you're at work and you're not being mindful, the work that somebody else is paying you or where you make your primary income, your job is to be mindful and to put 100% of your energy into creating the work that they do. And anytime that voice goes off inside of you that says, "Oh, I would rather be doing this and this," you say, stand down, girl. I'm gonna get this done, and we have 8 hours to implement all the other stuff. So, shuddy shuddy, I gotta go to work right now. You have to learn how to compartmentalize projects, passions, people, especially if you have people who are energy drainers and they just want to suck the life out of you. Which let me jump over to that really quickly because it's an important subject to talk about. I was going to talk about it. Yes, compartmentalize project, passions, and people. So, as a creative, every day when you look at your job is to compartmentalize. I have a standard. People ask me all the time, how do you get so much done? And right now, I feel like I'm not getting as much done as I want to because I've lost a little bit of grips on the time management and being overcommitted in time and also with summer and things of that nature. But I have a standard operating procedure. All of you who are creatives, you are trying to launch something important for yourself on the side. All of you who have a lot of responsibilities to you on your workforce, there was a research done that showed that a person putting in 2 hours of uninterrupted time versus a person who spends 8 hours on the job getting constantly interrupted, the person who spent 2 hours of focused time would get more done. As a way to manage your time, you have a standard that you put with the people around you, your coworkers, your family, as I laugh, your family, your team members that you literally say, I'm going into 2 hours of uninterrupted time. Only uh, text me or interrupt me if it's absolutely necessary. Now, during that 2 hours of uninterrupted time, it is your responsibility to be mindful and focused. It's not 2 hours of, I'm going to write like this. Oh my God, what's happening on Instagram today? Oh, wait a minute. Tia sent me a text. Let me respond to her really quickly. Okay, now I'm going to get back. No, it's if you have to reference your phone, you discipline yourself not to look at any other messages. It's about putting up what are called boundaries. And if you've ever taken our Reclaiming Me classes, boundaries are what keep the bad out and the good in. Excuse me, like I'm going to have to sneeze. So if I all of a sudden sneeze, I ask for pardons. If you are going to become productive of time, nobody manages your time except you. And on occasion, I'm going to set this to you as a closing class challenge to make a commitment for one day to really manage your time. One day turns into 2 days, 2 days turns into three, three, four, and continue to do that and start to put boundaries up with people. I'm going into 2 hours of uninterrupted time. Do not disturb me unless it's an emergency. Now, that doesn't mean that people won't stop. For example, and I'll use Tia again because we work together. That if Tia's on her work project and she's sending me 10 things that I need to do, it doesn't mean that she's going to stop and not send me everything. It's me not to stop and look at it and allow myself to get distracted. So there's so many times when we say, "Oh, I got interrupted all day. I got interrupted all day." The truth of the matter is we allow ourselves to get interrupted all day. It's really only in the event of a crisis or an emergency that our days truly get interrupted. I'm just going to sit in a pause and let you all absorb that because that's the truth of the matter. That if you learn simple statements like, I'm going into 2 hours of interrupted time, please don't bother me. And in 15 minutes, people are walking in. You stop, you look at them, you say, okay, I'm going to answer your question this one time. But again, this is a new policy. I have a lot to take care of. And if you want a better me on the other side, or you don't want to worry about if I'm going to make a deadline, you need to give me these 2 hours of uninterrupted time. Now, if you have people who are used to controlling your time, they're going to continue to try to interrupt you. Even if it's a waste of just them trying to distract you and say, I'm here. I don't like the fact that I'm used to you being focused 100% on me and you being so diligent in whatever you are working on. I'm taking it personal and I have to do something to try to distract you so your attention gets back on me. Does that make sense to anybody? And here's how you model that personality. If you give me this two hours of uninterrupted time, I'm gonna have the whole evening for you. And then I will leave you alone. 2 hours of uninterrupted time. I promise you, if you implement only this in your life, your daily and weekly productivity level will go up and up and up. Such an exciting thing to learn. The next thing that you need to learn is let's talk about what is important and what's not important. So, to a woman, the difference between us and men is men are basically what's important to them is the bottom line and productivity. To a woman, what's important is the house clean? Do our kids smell? Did they get their homework done? Do I have to go to the grocery store today? Oh my God, do I have the right outfit to wear? I'm getting gray hair. I got to get over to get my hair done, my face done. I think I need a new pair of shoes. But wait a minute, is that in the budget to go? You understand what I'm saying? To women, what's important is anything that affects our lives personally. I'm going to repeat that. To a woman, what is important is anything that affects our life. And this can blur us in the business world that we need to learn the discipline of sometimes stepping into more of our masculine personality. So you look at all the projects in front of you. And what I do is I remind myself that I'm an over warrior and I'm a codependent in recovery that I feel like I have to meet every single deadline. I stop, I pull myself out of the chaos and the noise of all of that. And I say, first off, logically, linearly, by the time clock, what's the most important thing that needs to get done? Where if I don't execute this today, it's going to financially hurt me. It's going to hurt my reputation, meaning, oh, they let me down. They missed a deadline. Is it going to stop somebody else's project if you don't perform? So I always choose the ones that are going to affect other people. So one thing that I'm about 50% good on it, and Rebecca helps manage all of our master's classes here. And we have a meeting and they say, what are we going to talk about? And when she says it, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk about this and this. And immediately after that, I tried to get in the habit of blamming out my thoughts on it and get it onto her inbox so that she can continue her project. If I don't, I'm going to continue to push it off my urgent to-do list, and then she's not able to execute her job. That's one thing that one discipline that I try to have is I call it the spinning plates.
Have you ever been to the circus where they have those long poles and they hit the plates, right? And then one it's going here, and this artist has this ability to keep 8 plates spinning on a pole. Do you know what I'm talking about? And so he hits the plates, and then when it's slowing down, it's starting to wobble, but he runs over to hit the plates. So our time management, when everything is important, it looks just like that. Which are the ones which are urgent, the linear deadlines that you absolutely, meetings that you have to show up for, deadlines that you have to meet. These are important. And the third one is, it might not be important to you, but what projects or movement do I need to put into action to keep the plates spinning? So, especially if you have those of you who might have a staff underneath you, you have to be aware of how your daily time management choices affect your staff to be able to move forward. And I'm not 100% good at it, but it is something that I try, and I know I need a lot of work, but it's you have to think about yourself, and you also have to think about the extension of yourself. Make sense? So 24 hours in a day, 3 to sleep, 3 to work, 3 to do your personal life. Importance is linear. Then it comes to the free time that you have. Each and every one of us has 8 hours a day to create a whole life, to become a concert pianist, to have a side hustle that's going to send you on the vacation of your dreams or start a whole new life for you, to enter into beauty pageants and experience dreams. Whatever that side, 8 hours a day, if you think about that, sometimes I'll look at the clock and I have a very conscious thought. What if these were my 8 hours that I could do whatever I want? I had this thing that is probably a very female thing, but I would just love to lose weight. I would just love to lose some weight. And you know what? I just don't have the time to get to the gym, to drive to the gym, and to take the time to go sweat. Because after I sweat, then I have to take a shower again. I just don't have the time in the day because of all my obligations. I don't even understand what I'm saying. We make excuses that we don't have time. What the truth of the matter, and I'm going to say was because I've had a shift on this, is it's not that I didn't have the time. I didn't make a priority. So there's a very big difference between having enough time for things or having a priority for something else. I happen to have this amazing family, my family of origin. They're so awesome. And sometimes they're badass crazy. And when everybody gets crazy, guess who they call? They call me. And so something happened over the past week with my family that I love so much, but they're badass crazy. I'm in Greece. I am on the other side of the world. And something happened over there. There are 6 people in my family. Guess how many phone calls I got? 5. And guess how much time each person wanted to take from me? Half an hour to an hour at least to tell their story, to share their stuff. That is 5 hours in one day that I just sat and listened to people. 5 hours. And when I closed the phone and I was laying there in bed and I was thinking about my creative projects that I really love working on, I said, "What are you doing, Tracy? Time to make a different plan." So I made a different plan. And my plan is that if my family picks up the phone to chat, to complain about whatever is happening in the drama of the family, I say, "I've got 10 minutes, guys. talk quickly. Talk quickly, got 10 minutes. I give them the time. I listen. And if they start to tell me their part of the story, I say, I know that. Okay, yeah, go to the next place. How can I help you? Tell me what you're looking for. How can I support you? So I'm not abandoning them, right? Because that will take out my brain space too. But I limit my time exposure. I don't make it a priority. And if I choose to make it a priority, I then go in and readjust the other priorities. So the truth of the matter is that it's not that we don't have enough time in a day. It's how we prioritize how we want to spend our time. And that's a big one. And if you are prioritizing your time by sacrificing yourself for other people, how many are guilty of that? Of worrying about problems that you cannot solve today. Do you know how much time in a day? I shared many times that I used to suffer from really bad anxiety and depression and things of nature. And one day around my recovery journey, I had this vision of my brain space or my heart space. And I realized how much space this worry about this other person or about this situation was taking up in my day. And I had a really clear understanding like, how much brain space would I have to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish if I wasn't festering or worrying about this? And that concept alone is what keeps me in the discipline of saying, okay, can I solve this problem right here, right now? No, I cannot. Okay, then I'm going to park it. I'm just going to, yesterday I was cleaning out all my pantry shelves here and I went and I got, so love it with OCD. Everything is like all matching and organized and labeled and everything of that nature. But in the process of that, I was pouring things in the canister and putting them off to the side and not thinking about them anymore. And that's what we have to do. That when things try to rob us of our day, because time doesn't control us, we control time. Issues control us. Pain controls us. Anxiety controls us. Fear controls us. But all of those are just lying thoughts. And we have the power and we have the right. And I ask myself this question: can I solve this situation at this very moment? No. So I'm going to consciously choose just to put it in this little container, put it off to the side, and I'm going to pick it back up tomorrow when I'm going to have a conversation with this person. Next week when I see this. Next, I have a situation in my professional life right now that I'm not going to have an answer until next October or this October. It would be so easy for me to waste my day, my creative space, my focus space, my present living mindfulness time being unproductive by allowing this to race in the back of my head. Or I can put it in this little container, put it off to the side. And you know what I have found? I have found that the majority, put it in that container, put it off to the side, let it be and get on with the rest of my life in a very mindful, joyful way. And then when it's time, go back, pick it up, open it up and say, okay, what's happening in this situation? And you know what I have found? I have found that the majority of the time it has worked itself out. And so all that fretting and worrying and allowing things to occupy my brain and my space, we are not supposed to be worrying individuals. And how can I prove that to you? What does it feel like when you sit around and worry? To me, anxiety and worry is one of the worst feelings that we can have. It literally feels like I'm poisoning my body, which I know I am poisoning my body and I'm doing that. And it is some of the most unproductive time management that we can have. You're robbing the people around you of the valuable time with people.
You are robbing your employers of your 100% gifts and talents that you are paid to perform. You are robbing yourself of the compartmentalizing and diving into your dream and your creative to forget the other things that are going wrong. So part of a creative's time management is learning to compartmentalize. Part of a creative's time management is to understand that it's not that you don't have time. It's that time you have the wrong priorities. Going back to my whole, and have time to go to the gym. I did a mind shift, and all of this takes just simply there is a saying that I have loved for years, and it's by Anthony DeMilo. And it says, nothing has changed but my attitude, and now everything has changed. And your attitude is the angle in which you look at something. And so I had an attitude shift about these 2 hours of my personal time. That, yeah, I like to, because I love, love, love what I do as a career, it's easy for me to say, okay, there's my 8-hour work day, and I want to spend my pleasure time actually doing more of this because I love it. It's such a colorful world that I live in. It's a creative world that I live in. And I love the people that I work with because they're also creatives, and we can spend the longest time talking about stuff that might be boring to other people, but right. Case in point, everybody here in the room, put the subject of a pretty crown on the table and what that means, and we could talking to me about a pretty evening gown, and we could go for hours talking about what we define as pretty and the colors. And then one choose a swimsuit for the next show that we're doing. Wow, let's talk about that, or backdrops, or all these different things. Might be boring to other people, but to us, to me, it just diving into that creativeness is an amazing feeling. So creativeness is going back to what I was saying. I had an attitude shift when it comes to accomplishing, putting my body as a priority, not as a beauty priority, as a health priority. That was my first thing. Stop working out to try to recapture a body that time is behind you. Not how you're built. Let it go and do it for health. And sure enough, there's this wonderful saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will present itself. It's a Hermetic saying. And I have a girlfriend that I met several years ago. She's an Aussie, and we met in Hawaii. And one year we were talking, and she's 50, and she is just in remarkable shape for 50. And she was telling me about her fitness routine. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you take time out of your busy schedule and just to get to the gym? And how do you stay motivated? Because when I'm there, all I'm thinking about is I've got this to do and I've got this to do, and then I make an excuse to stop because I gotta get back to my computer. Anybody guilty of that? And she said something to me that was a game changer. And she said, I learned to see my time at the gym or swimming or walking or whatever form of movement that she chooses to do. She said, that's my time. That is 100% my time. And I get a disconnect from work. I get a disconnect from obligations. I get a disconnect from even myself. Sometimes I can go into nothingness and just be there with the song. She says, I have 90 minutes are just me. And that was like a game changer for me, where all of a sudden I'm like, wow, so that could actually be your great escape. And it's just been a great changer because I reprioritized what was important to me. And I found that when I come back much more refreshed, I'm quicker, I'm more efficient, I'm more on point. And I find that a lot of times that this 90 minutes that I now use to bring health to my body, I'm actually sitting there and I'm thinking about, okay, oh yeah, there's the answer to that idea. Oh yeah, here's how that can work itself out. So I have 90 minutes to actually do a lot of strategizing. So it's not that we don't have time, it's that we don't have our right priorities. So take a look at your priorities. You want to take a look at also the time thieves. Who are the people or what are the things that are stealing your time? So I'm going to make a confession that when Spiro and I got here to Greece, it has been really hot. And during the day, so hot that you can't even, unless you're in the water at the beach, it's just too hot. So we would come home and we have really not been big serial TV watchers. Somebody introduced us to Breaking Bad. And I didn't know that Breaking Bad had 5 seasons or something of this nature. And we got stuck in this vortex of not being able to stop watching Breaking Bad. And we lost literally like a whole week of work just watching television. We couldn't believe it when we were all sucked into this vortex. And I was talking to Lucas, who's one of the people that works at our company, and we said, "Have you ever seen this?" And he said, "Absolutely not." He said, I make a choice not to watch any of those series. Why? It's so fun. It's good writing, it's good acting." And he said, "Because I'm gonna lose hours and hours of my day to do that." And so there's little things that we can do, monitoring how much time you spend on social media, monitoring how much I believe that every day we should do nothingness, monitoring how much nothingness you're doing, monitoring how much wasted time you're doing by worrying about things. So really look at your life with the time thieves and understand you're choosing to make time for those time thieves. You're not a victim. You're making the choice. But what if that time thief is a person? Well, if it's another adult person, you have a direct conversation to say, I can't, I did that with my family. I can't be spending this much time. Doesn't mean I don't love you guys, but you guys all get 10 minutes and you work it out. And then I realized that, gosh, adults really have to work out their own way, right? So they shouldn't need more than 10 minutes of my time. The last thing that I want to talk about before we go into Q&A, and this is something that was really a big one for me. I spent many years of my life in moments and seasons of despair where I really wasn't happy in the wrong relationship, held down, held back because of the trauma that happened with that, not knowing how to get myself unstuck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when I came out of all of that and was restabilizing myself, I had this reoccurring thought that when I would look at my life, I would say, "Oh my God, I've lost so much time. I've lost so much time. I wasted so much time on all of that. I wasted so much time worrying. I wasted so much time crying. I wasted so much time hurting. I wasted so much time being codependent on other people. I wasted so much time. And it was a burden to me, a very heavy burden. And I had to ask one day in my prayer and meditation time, I'm like, how do I make up for this lost time? How do I make up for this lost time? And I learned the secret sauce on that. So any of you who are looking at your life and you feel frustrated because you've lost time, that time will never get back. The past is the past. There's no way you can recapture what's been done. What's done is done. It's gone. The time is lost. The question is, how do you make up for lost time? And the way that you make up for lost time is managing your time that you can start living your dreams today. That is the only way to make up for lost time. Because what happens to your subconscious mind, and I speak from firsthand experience, is that when we focus on the here and the now, because our only point of power is the here and the now, present time living. Our only point of power is in the here and the now. And when we use that beautiful 8 hours of personal time a day to create our dreams. And I'll sidebar for just a second. If you want to create your dreams, you only have to take 3 steps a day. And in 1 year, your dream will be up and running. 3 steps a day. Make a phone call, make one decision, take one action. 3 steps a day. And by 1 year, your dream will be up and running. You don't have to, it's that simple. That's all I can tell you. And whenever I'm launching a new project, that's what I say, 3 steps a day, 3 steps a day. Is when I stop taking 3 new steps a day that the project becomes delayed and time becomes an issue. 3 steps a day.
Dr. Tracy, one more time, please. 3 steps a day.
Yes, the way that you create the life of your dreams is just making 3 steps a day. So if you found yourself suffering, saying, I've lost so much time, I've lost so much time, I want a different life. I want a different me. I want a different existence. And this has been a saying that I have been loving using with people around me, is that when I find myself being involved in conversations I don't like, in dynamics that I don't like, inspirations that I don't like, I say out loud of myself instead of just to myself, you know what? This is not the existence that I want for my life. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just not what I want for my life. And right there, I'm going on record with people. I'm going to use my 8 hours a day to make different choices for my life. So, how to make up for lost time? Begin dreaming today. Use your 8 hours of personal time. Put in there at least 3 choices a day to create your dream. And here's what happens to your subconscious mind. When you begin to make the choices and your dream begins to step into a reality, your subconscious mind forgets about the time you've lost. And all the dreams that you have had, they will start floodgating your life. And when you live them, you forget about what you've lost in time because you're making up for lost time. You can't recapture lost time, but you can make up for lost time by diving into your dreams, by diving into the pleasures of what makes your soul sing, of what makes that creative come alive. So those are just some amazing thoughts for creatives and time management. Most important, remember that there's plenty of time in the day. It's how you want to manage your time. This world is all about the breaths that we take and the choices that we make. They all have a shelf life. Our life, other people's lives, even crises have a shelf life. Don't take things too serious. Try not to worry about things because worry doesn't put one more second on your time clock of life. In fact, it will only shorten your lifespan here. Choose your battles wisely because you only have so many breaths with the people around you. But most important, you only have so many minutes a day to live in the existence of your creativeness and your joy. And that comes down to you choosing you to be that creative inspiration in this world. I thank you guys all for joining us for the class today. And Tia, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yeah, so we're going to have some time for some questions. And I'm going to start out with a couple of my questions that I've written down. And then, guys, you can type a chat in or raise your hand you when you have a question as well. But my first one, Dr. Tracy, we talk a lot when we talk about feminine boss about how much our mindset and our thought process impacts our personal lives as well as our professional lives. And I know we're going to talk about that even more. And you talked at the beginning of this class about how this is more business focused. But this question, I have a couple of questions that relate to other things that we talk about in some of the other classes. So, on the subject of boundaries and our time, why is it so much easier, at least for me, to keep time commitments that I make to other people? I have an appointment. I think all of you in this class at some point I've had an appointment with, and I show up for appointments, or I give you plenty of notice that I have to schedule or move it or cancel it or whatever. I don't do that as well with time that I set aside for myself. So why is it so hard to hold boundaries with ourselves for time when it's easier for other people?
I think that really goes back into a self-love issue. And what I mean by that is you value what you're bringing to that other person's life is a value that I'm going to spend time with this person and I have information that could really change their life. And that they enter this world, even if it's your closet world or the pageant world, you're blessing a person with an opportunity in life. And my question would be, why aren't you willing to bless yourself with that opportunity? Who's to say that, Tia, you're giving gifts of the next step of life to so many people? Why won't Tia give that gift to herself? Who made the rule that Tia doesn't get the priority that you give other people? Because as women, we're just taught to self-sacrifice. It's just either our nature, our nurture, or our culture. And then this is just really it's having a shift change, it's having an attitude change. And Tia, when I was learning my self-love thing, for those of you guys who know me, I write jingles. I'm not talking about jingles that you hear on television. I'm talking about life jingles. And I also like, how many of you guys have pets? Have pets, right? And those of us who are crazy pet lovers, we actually pretend that we know the voice of our own pets. Okay. And so I have jingles where my pets will sing to us and things of that nature. And I had this one dog, her name was Athena, and she was just the happiest little dog. We rescued her and she was just so happy. And so I would always say in her voice, I love my father and I love my mother. And then it became a jingle that would say, because I love my mother and I love my father. And I was at the stage where I needed to learn to love myself. And then we had another female dog. And then the song like, because I love my mother and I love my father and I love my sister. And one day I threw in there, and I love me too. And so I just began to sing that song over and over. Love my mother, and I love my father, and I love my sister. That was me loving, and I put at the end of the song, and I love me too. And so that's what we need to learn. We need to learn that put that final verse on the song. It says, wait a minute, if I'm distributing all this gift, all this love to other people, save a piece of the pie for yourselves.
Is this something I need to answer?
You can share.
Yeah.
Could you?
I think with my own time, sometimes it's okay. I can move, I can be flexible with myself and I can move that to another time. And then it just keeps getting moved and it doesn't happen. And so that's part of that piece for me. There's another thing that kind of ties into what we learn in Reclaiming Me is Reclaiming Me, we learn about rumination and how we can have thoughts that we just keep with us and are not able to move past it. Um, I get like that with projects. Can you talk about how to, like, when we're just thinking of a project, how do we then move on to that compartmentalizing? Because sometimes I feel like, okay, I just got to stop everything and get this one project done. So I'm not mentally focused on that one project and I can move on to another one.
Give me a little bit more of an example.
Yes, maybe it's I need to write a letter that needs to go out next week, and I just am overthinking what's gonna go in the letter, what's gonna go in the letter, and it's taking thought away from other projects that I need to be working on. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I just gotta sit down and I gotta write that letter, even though it's not due till next week, because I gotta get it out of the things I'm thinking about and onto the things of I'm completed. Some things I can compartmentalize and be like, okay, I'm just not going to think about that till tomorrow. But there are certain things that once they're running in my head, I just have a hard time
Yeah.
focusing on other
Okay.
things.
So that's actually what you need to do. If you find something that is just gnawing at you, it's better just to pound it out, because when it's gnawing at you, it means it needs to get out. And you just need to, the term is mind dumping. You just got to get it out of your mind, because if not, it's just going to gnaw. And things like that, you're making 100% the right decision, where I have 10 other things that I need to accomplish today. And let me just sidebar for a second. It's really important if you have any sort of an entrepreneurial spirit in you that you 100% accept that you are a busy person. You know what people like, are you busy? Do you have a nose? Of course I'm busy, but I have time for you. So go. So it's really important that if you find it taking up that -9 and it's shutting down your creative, get it out. Get it out. And also, I'm learning so much about AI and especially like in business, you can be driving down the street and say to your chat GPT, write me a business letter to a client addressing the problem of blah, 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 and give it as much prompting as possible. And by the time you hit the next light, you'll have the entire letter there. And then you can at least forget about it long enough so you can get in there and clean it up.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to,
AI is a huge time management friend.
who else has a question that they would like to ask about today? You can type it in the chat, or in the meantime, let's see here. Rebecca shared some takeaways. It says, don't waste time fretting, put it into its compartment and it can wait. Often it will work itself out. She shared, prioritize what is most important to your soul and what is needed now for maximum productivity. I think that one thing that comes to mind for me sometimes in that, this is gonna sound silly, but sometimes like I get so going in my day, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock and I haven't had lunch. And sometimes I just have to like stop and eat and drink so I can keep to be productive. But I can get so on the go, and not that I'm meaning that I'm not allowing myself. I just get caught up in the moment. So that's a good one, Rebecca. Thank you for sharing that. It says, put boundaries around people who steal your time. She shared, we all have 3 8-hour segments in our day: 8 for sleep, 8 for life, 8 for work. So simply put, to think about how to invest those 8-hour blocks, projects, and goals.
Mindful. That personal time, you must be mindful and you can be selfish and you can be creative and you can think outside the box 8 hours a day.
She said, stop wasting time trying to achieve the body of your youth. And then she put crying tears next to that. And then she said, hold on, my computer skipped. Create your dreams in 3 steps a day. 1 year, your dream will be up and running. I'm going to challenge myself to identify 3 steps each day toward the life I dream of. And then she said, dive into the pleasures of what makes your soul come alive. This is your gift to the world.
Yes. Two other things that I want to chat about really quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you for those, Rebecca, by the way. There's two disciplines that I want to teach you in addition to everything else. Number one, there is a technique and it's called segmenting. I learned about segmenting when I became a student of thought and learning how to manifest my life and maintain an inner positivity, because when you're happy on the inside, you attract that on the outside. It's something that's called segmenting. And for time management, it's very important that you segment throughout the day. So one little thing, and I do it for more of a joy purpose, is that I look at my entire day. And if I see that I'm going to have an emotionally exhausting day, I make sure that in my pleasure time, I say, where am I going to recuperate? How am I going to recuperate? Where am I going to self care so that I can maintain my element of joy and passion and clarity? But what segmenting looks like throughout the day is you start your day, and the night before I think about my next day. I always look over my next day. But when I wake up in the morning, it's still fresh in my mind, what I accomplish. And then I break my day down into segments. So this morning is going to be all about, I'm going to take 2 hours of my personal time right now and get the house in order. And then I'm going to take 2 hours of my workday in unsegmented time or an uninterrupted time. And now I'm going to take 2 hours and I'm going to go self care and make sure I go exercise. And then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work on this project. And I segment, okay, I'm going to dedicate so much time to this project and I'm being mindful. I'm not going to allow myself to get interrupted. I got to give myself a pep talk and powerhouse it through. So segmenting is a really important discipline to learn. The other thing is, which we didn't talk about, and I apologize about this, is how do you keep track of your day and your to-dos? That is really important. I live my life by what's called the yellow pad system, and I'll be happy to send a one sheet out to anybody who would like to learn about the yellow pad system. But I learned it years ago, and it has just been so effective for me. And I encourage everybody to, if you've never been taught how to manage your projects and your time, it was a very simple way just to have everything in front of you. And the beautiful thing about the yellow pad system, now we all do it on our phones, or I happen to have a Remarkable, so I did on my Remarkable. It comes from the term where we used to all write on yellow pads, you remember? And the beautiful thing about the yellow pad system, it allows you to wind down and you get everything out of your mind and it sits on a piece of paper, not inside your brain and occupying your creative space that you need to be able to make your life by a life design. And the one thing that I will close with is that why is it so important? As I'm not going back and saying your productivity. If you notice, I keep saying your creativeness. The reason that is so important is that everything new in life begins through imagination and creativity. And so we have got to keep our creativeness fresh and clean and open space and to give that spiritual space to your creative side every single day, because that's where your answers lie. That's where your solutions lie. That's where your dreams lie. It all rests in that creative space within us. And so it's important to make space and time for that every day and not clog it up with the other things.
So, Dr. Tracy submitted a question. Can you explain the difference between segmenting and compartmentalizing?
Compartmentalizing is I have a project. I have a project, let's say, and it's something that I can't solve today, right? I don't have an answer today. I'm going to put it in its little compartment and I'm going to shove it off to the side and tell myself I'm going to revisit that tomorrow. I'm not going to think about it at all today anymore. That's my personal boundary I'm putting up on myself. I will check in on 2 months. I'm going to put it off to the side. Segmenting is looking at your day and saying, okay, at 8 o'clock, I have meetings until 12 o'clock. So before I go into this situation, do I have everything that I need to successfully implement what I have to do? So I really plan, I look at those 3 hours and I say, am I prepared for these 3 hours? Yes, I am. And then I ask myself another question. What is happening after that? What's happening after that is lunch. Okay, am I prepared for that? Good. So I already have in the back of my mind, uh, like the preparations for the delegations or the preparations for what happens after that. The segmenting is looking at the next steps of your life and saying, how is this going to go? Okay, for example, when we logged on to the class tonight before anybody came in, Tia and I were going to set up, and I said, Tia, how much time do I have today? And she says to me, you have until this time. And so I'm segmenting. I'm preparing myself. What time do I have to finish? She tells me, I set an alarm, right? And so now I can go in here and completely relax because I put my boundaries up. And I'm ready for these moments in time to make sure that our time together, time is it's valuable, and people's time is very rushed, and so I want this time to be a good time. And then after this, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a few minutes to recalibrate myself. Then I'm going to go talk to Spiro, and we're going to say, okay, what are we doing for dinner? And then I'm going to segment into dinner.
Am I prepared for leaving the house? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm always going into it. It's a practice that allows you to be mindful in every situation that you go into because mindful is very productive. And the whole thing about time is that we want more time in a day to be more productive, but we don't need more time. We need more mindfulness.
Can I share one thing? Just I learned something, not just learn. Someone once told me to how I can like when I set something on my mind, my time or how to live this time, this moment. That to put my mind and I put the step on my life and it's whole thing. That is really powerful because we don't know how to live the moment exactly. We cannot put that anyone.
That's right.
Go ahead, Dr. Tracy.
Oh, great.
I was just going to say, I think that's we talk about being present so often in our personal lives, but I think being part of what we're talking about is like being present on this idea or subject or project that we're working on, and then being able to be present in the next thing and from moving from one to the other.
You know what, Tia? It's a good point because we can be, and many of us, I've made this mistake, is I could be here, but if I'm not mindful, my body's here, but I'm thinking where I'm going next. I've just lost this time. And time is all we have with you. Time and the experiences that we have, that's all it comes down to. And so having these conscious questions of how do I want to spend this time? And that's part of segmenting is looking at what you're about to go into and speaking an intention over it. How do I want to spend this time? I don't know. You have to have a really difficult conversation with this person. How do I want to spend this time? I want to spend this time having a very productive, air clearing conversation. I don't know how it's going to end up. It's going to be on how two people show up. But my intention in this time that we have together, in this time that it's not going to drag on forever, it's going to be a 20-minute conversation and then it's over, is going to have the intention of blah, blah, blah. Segmenting is amazing. Maybe Rebecca and you, we should run a course on segmenting. I can really teach people how to segment, but it's also part of the Feminine Boss Academy. For sure.
Yes. That transitions into another question that I had. Can we talk about multitasking when it comes to time?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a huge multitasker. I think the first thing that you have to know about multitasking is I think you either are or you aren't. And people who are not multitaskers, you have to direct them with job execution in a different way than you would with somebody who is a multitasker. I am a super multitasker, and I'm the type of person that I have this thing about laundry. I cannot stand when laundry gets backed up. I actually enjoy doing laundry. And so I'm the type of person that before I go to bed at night, believe it or not, I, about an hour before I'm getting to unwind everything, throw a load in, it's out, I air dry, I don't use the dryer. And so as I'm getting ready for bed, I'm getting loads of laundry done. And if the dishwasher's going at the same time, I'm super happy. But three things going at once. So I always look at situations and think, how are there two things that I can do at one time? And sometimes it's starting a process 5 minutes earlier. I made 5 minutes for that load of laundry in, and then I'm ready for my 6:15. And when I come out, I'm going to have another load of laundry done today. And because I air dry everything, I'm going to hang it up when we're out to dinner. I'm going to be like, my laundry's going to be dry when I get home. So you see, Dr. Tracy, you are the first person I've come across with laundry. I love doing laundry. Yeah. So multitasking is you really have to understand the person that you're with and get really clear. Is this person a multitasker or is this person not a multitasker? Because multitaskers can see monotaskers as lame. Like, what is wrong with you that you can't take 10 things at once? But they're not. It's just how people intake information in life. If you have a multitasker, you can give them 10 things at once and they'll do their magic on it. If you have a monotasker, that lists are very important for them. Lists eat more.
I think too, Tracy, with that, with the idea of multitasking, it's like we talked a minute ago about being present. I think there's a fine line of, is my brain multitasking 10 different things so I'm not present in any of them and not really accomplishing anything? But I think everybody in this room, I've had a phone call, like a business meeting while I'm in the car driving someplace, or I'll be on a walk and multitasking a meeting or a call or even my own personal kind of brainstorming sessions. I think it's finding ways where we can be present in both things at the same time.
And that's why I have
And
found compartmentalizing has really helped me in shutting off my brain. And I've gained a discipline that will literally say, stop thinking about it, Tracy. Stop it. I'm in control of my mind. My mind isn't in control of me. And there is something about seeing me put it in my brain. I blah, 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 and I can see it going in this little compartment and I put it off to the side. So I know it's there, but I just don't have to think about it anymore. And that this discipline of seeing me put it in a clear jar that I know it's there and I'm going to come back to it, it just allows me to stop thinking about it and not being present because I spent so many years of my life not being present, either living in the fear of anxiety of what if and when land and worrying about all that, that I lost my moments of the now. And it's now is where the joy is. Now is where our power is. Now is where our peace is. And so now is actually a very beautiful place to be. And I choose to use my time going through living my now.
ladies, are there any other questions? We've got just a couple minutes until we need to wrap up. All right. So if there's no more questions, Dr. Tracy, do you have any final words before we wrap up on managing time?
And tell you, I encourage you to know that we have only so many breaths in life. We have only choose your battles wisely. Don't waste your time on non-productive things. I ask myself, if I'm in a stupid conversation about something, I'll say, is this really a productive, valuable use of time? No, it's not. And if it's not, I just refuse to do it anymore. And what does that sound like? Okay, I'm not going to have this conversation anymore because it's not a productive, valuable use of time. It's not bringing me joy, and not living in joy is not the existence that I want. So we can either move on to something and get on with life, or what do you want to do about this? So I'm very proactive about how I want to spend the moments of my day. And just remember that you are in control of time. Time is not in control of you. We are such powerful beings. And we are programmed in many ways, and we have at any time the power and the wisdom to be able to change the program. If we don't like the rule book that we're living by, just change the rules, because this is your life and your journey. You belong to nobody but you. And what you created your life rests within the creation of your spirit. So fly high, be creative, and create your life by design.
Ladies, thanks so much for joining us today. We will be back next month with our next masterclass. We'll see you then. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
so much.
See you soon.
Love
Love to you.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.